call the meeting with a pledge to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Since we're recording this, I think I'm just going to start with John and just have them go down and give their names of our visitors, since we have quite a few. You tell me when you're ready, okay?
Okay.
John Colley. We'll start with John.
John Mahalik, Commissioner, Shiawassee County Road Commission.
Wayne Constein, Commissioner, Shiawassee County.
Brent Freeze, Managing Director, Shiawassee County Road Commission.
Troy Howe, Superintendent of Operations, Shiawassee County Road Commission.
John Plowman, County Commissioner.
Ben Frederick, State Representative. Justin Horvath, Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Okay. Roll call, Kelly?
Mark Foltz.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Here.
Francis Griffith.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt.
Okay. Agenda, on new business, we want to just add industrial park, DDA property. That's the spur things.
Oh, we put industrial park sewer.
For sewer, okay.
Sewer.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. December 4th, regular meeting minutes approval. Somewhere we have those.
Motion to approve.
Motion's been made, seconded by Butch. Mark made the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to start with our road commissioner, and he's worked really hard on trying to put some numbers together for us. So we'll turn it over to Rick Reese.
Is it all right if I just sit right here?
You can sit right there.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
We're going to listen really good.
First off, I'll go over your 2020 potential projects. These are the only things on here that are not, actually our firm prices would be the chip seal and then also the mineral oil brine. We have to bid our asphalt on the scratch course chip seals. And we also have to bid our gravel hauling. Tentatively right now, I'm going to take that to our next board meeting that we would open bids on February 11th. And then once those are done, I'll update these sheets for you, get them to you.
Sure.
So starting off, scratch course chip seal, Lock Road from Lovejoy Road north and east, 1.20 miles. And that is estimated at $100,800. Bennett Drive from Britton Road to Lansing Road, 0.44 miles. Of a scratch course chip seal is estimated at $84,000. And you know, you look at that and it's like 1.2 miles is a little over 100,000, and then 0.44 is way up at 84. Obviously, it's got to do with the amount of tonnage on the asphalt. It's a small job. They still have to move everything in there to do the job. Hopefully, this is estimated high. We just kind of had to guess at, you know, what we thought that would be. So
You'll know a firmer number when, roughly?
what the board would open up the bids on the 11th. So at the following board meeting, they would approve. We'll review the bids and go back with a recommendation that they approve or not approve. At I think it's the 28th. So yeah, yes, the 4th Tuesday of the month. And at that point, I'll get you firm prices. So chip seal, Bath Road from M52 to Lansing Road, that's 2.56 miles. That's $84,300. That is a firm price. Beardsley Road from Bath Road to Lansing Road, 0.10 miles, $3,000. And Roos Road from Bath Road to Lansing Road, 0.94 miles, $30,350. And most of this is, if you recall, was the detour, and we were able to get MDOT to kick in while the railroad crossing downtown was shut down, and they repaved that. So I know Mark and Troy, the three of us have been talking, that'd be great to get that chip sealed sooner than later. So, so that's why those are on there. And then gravel, talked with Mark and Troy on these, plus looked at the 10-year map of what you've done over the last few years. So there's a lot of these on here, but I don't know if Antrim Township is interested in doing that first job, Cork Road from Braden to Lovejoy. You did that between Beard and Braden last year in joint with them. So I did put that on the list, 1.02 miles. Once again, this is an estimate, $8,255 per township. Beardsley Road from Braden Road south to the Woodhull Township line. And we do have that on Woodhall's to do the portion in their township. That is estimated at $7,302.50. Bruce Road from Church Road to the end of the Blacktop north of Britton Road is 0.69 miles, be $11,112.50. Ellsworth Road from Morris Road east to the Antrim Township line, 1 mile, $16,192.50. Bridger Braden Roads from Lovejoy Road to Morris Road, 1.25 miles, $20,002.50. Rupert Road from Lock Road to Lovejoy Road, 0.5 miles, is $8,255. And then I did put on your usual 1 mile of gravel in case something blows up once the spring thaw hits. That's estimated at $16,192.50. Mineral well brine, Perry Township is number 6 this year on the list to do that. This is 3,000 gallons at 2 applications. That is $29,160, and that is a firm price. The board did approve a bid extension with the chloride company back in.
That's the one we only did one application last
Correct,
year.
correct.
Most of the weather.
Great All, you're number 6 this year. And then the SCRC contribution, 2020 contribution, is up from $25,000 to $35,000 on any of these projects. And it can't be used for arm mowing, dust control, or tree trimming.
Well, good. That's because the state funding is going up. And
We hope so.
we've got people to help talk about that a little bit tonight. But yeah, okay.
Good.
Okay.
So is there any, and I know this is a very large list.
It is.
And it is every year. I know it's not generally a shock to you. Most of the time you guys are great about, I shouldn't say you always are, about helping me put this list together.
Yeah, we weren't as good on the gravel this year. We should have.
But we're
But
going
I
to have
mean-
our new foreman, Henry.
Yep.
And we're going to take a little trip.
Yep.
So the weather gets nice again, maybe Saturday. No, I'm just kidding. 45, 50, whatever. And we'll take a little
With
trip.
the gravel projects, usually you guys do have a list that you want on there.
Yeah.
But typically what we do with the gravels is obviously I ask the township supervisors what they would like on this list. And then we take the district foreman, they talk to the grader, operator, truck driver, and they come up with a list to give me to fill in the sheet, so.
The good thing about.
I mean, we can swap those out by mileage. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
The good thing about Troy is he's all over this place, with
Yeah.
this
Troy
equipment.
lives on a gravel road.
Well,
He
and
kinda
the
knows.
nice thing about, and we can't do that obviously for the asphalt because
Yeah.
it's just a whole different animal, but with the gravel, we bid it anywhere in the township. We know what the price of the gravel is gonna be, it's coming out of the road commission pit. So, okay, trucking company, here's Perry Township, give us a price to haul anywhere in Perry Township. And it doesn't matter if it's 500 ton or 1,000 ton or 15,000 ton, it's that price, so.
The Bennett Drive, Brent, does that have, there's some milling in there because of the curb. Is that just at those areas? or-
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And then there's also, we did add some wedging in there, because there's a couple of spots that are pretty pronounced
Yeah.
in there. And I did pass out a little history for you on the Bennett Drive. It was chip sealed, thank goodness for the ladies in the office, they always save me. Actually, one of the gals had the project list back from when she started, and so she found for me that it was chip sealed in 2002.
Okay,
Something.
good.
Because the only thing I could remember is I thought for sure that Bennett Drive wasn't there when I started here at the road road commission, so, and I was right, it was a couple of years later.
Okay, well, good. We appreciate
And
it.
it was accepted in '94, February of '94 is when they actually put it on the certification.
Troy and I talked, it'd been nice if we had done this when Britton Road was
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
We kind of lost that.
Yeah, I don't know
Save
how
some
that got,
money.
well, I mean, it just nobody, but.
Well, and, you know, on the other side of that, I knew that that was a pretty big undertaking, what you guys did anyways, with the Beardsley Road and the part of the Bath, and then double chipping the Roos intersection there. I mean, obviously, you guys do a lot of work, and we appreciate that, so.
Let's see if the board has any questions for you before you take them. You're okay?
Yep.
Butch, you're okay?
So that, have you put that asphalt portion out to bid or not?
We are going to do bids, we'll open up bids on the 11th, and that will be part of our
And that would
bids.
be in that one?
Yes.
Okay,
What's your 2020 major paving project?
The road commission's project is going to, the Britton Road, starting at the Perry Township line where we ended, going over to the Grand River Road, and then going up Grand River Road to Cole Road, taking Grand River south down to Reed, you know how it all zigzags down there, to the Bath Road, and then the Bath Road from Reed Road to the railroad tracks going into Byron, at the Byron village limits. That, the railroad is the village limits there. And then we're going to Middlebury Township and doing the Warren Road from M21 down to Hibbard Road. We're doing Baldwin Road, which is a joint, basically shared with Middlebury and Owasso Charter Township. Baldwin Road from 21 down to Hibbard Road. Then we're doing the Priest, Roos in Owasso Charter Township, starting at M21 going north to the Wilkinson Road. And then also the Chipman Road from North Street up to the Cronk Road, which is the Rush Township line. And that's 22 or 24 miles for 2020. So right now we have that estimated, and we're using the gas tax money, the new money that we got, that was passed, in 16 or 15, and finally, and it's being phased in, obviously, but right now we have that is estimated at $2.2 million right there for all of that work. And when we originally did the 4-year plan, it was basically set up in that 22 to 25 mile range. Well, then we did get a special appropriation of $577,000 in 2018, so we literally did 30 some miles. So we just advanced the 4-year plan. So right now we're about 9 years ahead of that 4-year plan.
9 miles.
9 miles, yes.
9 miles.
Yes. And I'm actually taking to the board the concept anyways of the 4-year plan is now going to be a 6-year plan. I added 2 more years on. But kind of the shocker of that is, and Representative Frederick, I'm not sure if he was aware of, when we first started that, asphalt was $48 a ton in 2018. It went to $58 a ton in 19, and luckily here in 2020, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it only went up $3.50 a ton. But it's just, they're eating, and once again, there's so much work going on in the state that hadn't been done since 2008 that the contractors are eating up the money.
Which you can
We're not
understand.
going, we can't go as far. So luckily, we did get that special appropriation, and we were able to jump. We just said, okay, we're going to move ahead on the 4-year plan. Well, hopefully, we'll get done quicker.
And then rumor has it Ben is gonna get us a bunch of money. For sure.
John, I heard that same rumor.
Did you hear that?
Last night, I think.
It's probably just about like the prime rib.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand the seating arrangement. The trickles on and down.
The neat thing
By the time it
is,
gets to me, it's like no pressure.
you see, I wanted you guys to go first before I.
So the 6-year plan, I mean, when do you think you're gonna have the next kind of layout one?
Well, actually, because originally it was a 4-year plan, I'm going to take it to the board for them to look at, and, you know, hopefully hopefully buy onto that, is that by 2000, this is 20, so 21, we will actually start the north-south. We're gonna actually be on the, because of the special appropriation that we got in 18, we're gonna start on the Durand Road at Johnstone Road, because we're up there kind of anyways, and we're bringing that all the way down to Lansing Road. So I think it's in 2023 right now, it's the Morris Road.
That's where I was going, yeah.
And once again, what we tried to do with this 4-year plan and moving forward with that is that try to get projects that are pretty long in length so that the contractor isn't jumping all over to all 16 townships. That all 16 townships are getting results off of that. It just may not be
In the same year.
in the same year. But at the end of the day, it really, the first year that we bid it, it was pretty evident that the plan was working because our asphalt came in a lot cheaper than the individual jobs in the townships. And so what we did was is we just took those primary roads, and that's what the plan has been, to take that off of you as townships and do those, and then we can really bunch those together. And once again, we're doing 20 some miles. Now, it's the start of the jump around because that center set of townships, the east-west continuous road is M21, and we're not doing MDOT's paving. So that's where it got a little bit hairy until we got over to Lido Road in Caledonia and Venice Township. Now we had an east-west road that we could run on that's almost 12 miles long right there. So it's, yeah.
What, I mean, if we're in theory 3 years out on Morris Road, what would you suggest we do? I mean, should we just do a crack seal in the next year or two to kind of keep it?
That would be the only, that I wouldn't do a chip seal on it. I mean, right now we're estimating chip seals lasting 5 years, just a plain old regular chip. Obviously the scratch course chip seal is taking some of the taking the wheel rutting out, but also some of the drops. It's not perfect, but once again, we're trying to make this the best bang for our buck.
I think it's what we can do with what's available.
Yes.
But I mean, that's why I'm just, Morris Road's gonna be, I mean, we'll be well past 5 years on that current chip by then, so maybe a crack seal in a year or two just to keep the water out.
And see, and I'm thinking right now with the mileage and stuff, like it almost, when we get down this way, I wanna say the map stops at Miller Road. So we really wouldn't be on Perry Township's Morris Road until 2024. Because I'm trying to go this mileage and okay, trying to anticipate what the increase is gonna be 5 years out. And so but my whole thing is, it's easier to change a plan than if you don't have any plan at all.
You got that right.
Where it was really, really nice, the very first year when we had the plan, okay, here's over 100 miles in 4 years or whatever. Well, then all of a sudden here comes $577,000. It didn't take very long to figure out what we were going to do with it. So once again, if we do happen to get some extra appropriations or whatever, here's our plan. We're ready to go.
Well, I just wanna, it gives us some planning too. I mean, when we come down through here, I mean, we have both Beard and Ellsworth Road that, if we do the piggyback approach, to our,
Yes.
it's gonna be, right in that particular Beard going this way,
Yes.
stuff, so.
And I know that
I just don't
Woodall
want Morris Road
Township
to-
is trying to do they're trying to finish up their Beard Road from just east of Warner Road to the Perry Township line in 2020. But and the other thing is now that we're kind of on, that we have this plan, we actually have all of the culverts for 2020 job was changed in 19 except one. On all those miles, and not, hey, we're human beings, we may miss a culvert that is buried that the guys just didn't find, but literally, if you drive those jobs, it's like, there's a hot patch here, a hot patch there. We basically changed almost every culvert on those miles. And so now they're gonna get to sit this winter and go through a freeze thaw cycle, and then they'll be paved. Instead of that first year, it was pretty hairy. We were trying to stay ahead of the pavers, getting the culverts in, getting them compact, getting the hot patch back in, and then,
Have it ready.
Well, and you're gonna end up with a dip in those situations.
Yes,
It's hard
yes.
not to.
and especially with the subsoils that we have here. And
I just, you know, I don't want Morris Road to also fall to pieces such that a scratch
Right.
course seal coat is almost not enough, you know.
I did actually drive, some of them today that are a little bit farther out, and I was like, well, maybe we're gonna be okay, because that was one of my concerns is when I was trying to put this together is all right, maybe the scratch course, it's gonna be too far gone, that maybe we may have to do a 2-inch pave and shoulders, but still chip seal it, so that you're getting that continuous chip seal where you're going, in those long runs, so, but from what I was seeing today, we might be okay a few years
What
out.
I always tell people is when they question chip seal, whether it's value or not, I tell them to drive Morris Road from the south heading into Morris. That piece of Morris Road in the village limits, south of Britton Road, was asphalted at the same time that the piece in Morris Road, the piece in the township was asphalted. The difference is ours has had a chip seal 3 or 4 times since then, and theirs has not, and drive it and see what you
Yeah.
think.
And actually, there's a road commission that's been doing this since the 90s, that it doesn't matter if they're doing a scratch course pave or if they're doing a 4-inch pave, they incorporate a chip seal in it that same year because they feel that it helps stop the oxidization of the asphalt.
Seals any cracks, I mean, anything that didn't go right. Right?
Hey, Brett, well, again, we finished the year last year in good shape and appreciate all the hard work. And anytime I had a comment or a question, you got right back with us. I appreciate that. And when we had questions, you got back with us. We appreciate that.
Well, and obviously, hopefully I don't ever forget this, but, thank you for spending the monies that you do on the roads for the traveling public and the residents of this whole county. That, obviously, we would be in dire straits if it wasn't for the help of the townships.
And I should tell the public that during the holiday season, when we were off, Brett was working, and he actually trimmed a lot of trees in Forest Green and cut the limbs back manually, I think, and stacked some wood for the people. And
Brett didn't do it, our crews did.
Brett's crew, and we talked about 2.5 days, maybe 3 days, and it made a good impact. And we weren't expecting that. Troy was surprised, and so.
Well, and
Appreciate
always
that.
before, we were almost thinking that maybe we might even have to have a contractor come in there, and I made that comment last night at MTA. It's amazing what we can do when it's not snowing.
Well, yeah.
This is
Beautiful
this
weather.
is
Yeah.
a good time of the year to do those types of things, but the same guys that are doing that are out salting the roads this morning.
The
so.
Fargo was concerned because they couldn't get their fire trucks through there, there was some concern, the people plowing and all that, so it worked out real well.
I drove it the other day, and
Yeah.
I thought it turned out really
Sounds
nice.
great.
We didn't butcher it all up, and
No,
it still looks nice in there.
Well, very good.
Yes.
I know you gotta go, so thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then just, I guess on the last thing there is just keep your fingers crossed that we don't get the weather that they are predicting.
Oh, I hope that, maybe it'll go a little further.
Right now, the preliminary forecast is a 1/2 to an inch of
Ice?
ice.
That's not.
I don't think I've ever seen that. 1/4 of an inch is pretty devastating.
No.
On the other hand, if we get on the warm side of it, it could be like 2 to 3 inches of rain.
I think at this point, I might take that.
I'd be about 3 foot of snow, but I mean, it still won't be fun, so.
I just want to tell you guys, a lot of Morse Road, what you're looking at is cosmetic. As
Yeah.
long as the base is solid, the scratch holds
Oh,
up
absolutely.
real well. Don't let the chipping and the little, that's.
I just don't want
it's
it,
the-
No, the
When
worst
the
part.
road starts, we have to start doing vegging and stuff, then
The worst part of Morris Road is in the village.
yeah. Well,
It really is, yeah.
But I tell people that, the difference, do you wanna know exactly what a seal coat does? Cause that was all asphalted, the same pass.
Every time you do that, that's another wear course, that's another protection course, so that is money well spent. So.
Thanks, Mike, I appreciate it.
Hopefully they pay more.
See you guys.
See you, Troy.
See you in a week, John.
Yes. See you next week.
Thanks again, everybody.
Okay.
We'll let you know how the dessert buffet went.
Well, I do, tell her I said hi and saved you some. Ben, okay, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ben Frederick. He was in Lansing all day today. He's been working tirelessly and a lot of effort trying to help us with some things. So I'm going to turn it over to Ben Frederick right now. Steve.
Okay. If the road commissioners were still here, I'd say, that's the way to do it too. You put your pins in and then you go. No,
Do I get a bonus point?
That's right. Thank you for the invitation. Supervisor has a sixth sense in predicting the days we're going to go long in session, because those are the days he asked me to come and speak. And we had that happen during the budget season and so on. But glad to be in front of you again and just provide a brief update on a few things, and I certainly welcome your questions. This term I'm on a pretty broad committee scope. I'm the Vice Chair of Health Policy. I'm on the Energy Committee, Regulatory Reform, Insurance, as well as a special committee that was set up earlier this term on reforming auto no-fault. So I've had the happy problem of being in a central role for some of those negotiations with the administration and the Senate on issues like auto no-fault, or more recently some of the things that you saw in the budget as far as working on some reforms on how the administration interacts with the legislature and how some of those things are done. No-fault was definitely consuming most of my time for the first half of this last year. And I believe that we passed a product that represented a middle ground, bipartisan input. But there's some refinements that need to be done. So more recently, I've been taking input from the different stakeholders across the spectrum of patients and healthcare side, insurance providers, and so on, and saying, in doing this massive overhaul that we did last year, which carried with it a 1-year implementation window, so that the systems for healthcare and insurance can kind of update over time. It goes into effect in July. And in brief, what it does is it allows for choice levels for the healthcare insurance part of your auto insurance, up to and including actually opting out of that portion of your auto policy if you have alternative systems in place, whether it's Medicare or employer delivered healthcare. This is estimated to reduce most premiums by between 10 and 50%, depending on the choice level that's elected. And it's going into effect in July. But in the meantime, we passed a massive bill after a lot of discussion and a lot of things. And we knew it wasn't going to be exactly what we needed it to be. But when you've been trying to change something for 40 years and you have that, the things lining up, you take your moment. And there was just that moment in time that we had. And so even some of us who voted yes on things, we had certain expectations about coming back and looking at some things more closely. So I am in the position now of collecting that feedback, as I say, and I'm expecting to have a composite of that feedback for leadership in the House and Senate in their negotiations with the governor's administration on what we would consider to be a cleanup bill. So the raw effects of the bill that I've described will stay the same, but in making sure that the bill actually does in all cases what we had intended it to do. This might be as simple as a technical fix here or some type of provision that meets the intent of the bill. These types of complex policies always need to have some follow-up process. So that's been taking up a lot of my time more recently. I'll just give you one example so you can kind of see what would be involved. So we have in there certain fee limitations, fee schedules for health insurance providers under no fault versus there just not being anything like that now. The intent being to control costs, of course, for those medical claims. That in some cases were far higher reimbursement for auto no fault than they would be for other types of insurance. But as we got feedback, we have a certain percentage of Medicare that is supposed to be equivalent to, that's the cap. Well, we had some providers of post-acute rehabilitative services say, well, we actually have some procedures that don't have medical codes. There's no way to apples compare those procedures with a percentage. And so we work with them on how we can actually put something additional into the law so that those types of procedures actually meet what we intended to do all along. So it's not changing the policy, it's just making sure that all the circumstances that have come forward are accounted for and making sure it does what we had intended it to do. And there's no unintended consequences like there often are with these types of things. That's why there was the delay, purposely understanding that there would be some things that we needed to refine.
Then does all the insurance companies that people have policies with will, in July, will send out notices, or do we need?
Well before that.
Well before, I just wondered.
The goal that I have, and again, I'm one member, so it's really up to the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader and the Governor in those conversations, is to get this in front of the legislature this spring, so that we're not doing the last minute thing. There's a change about to happen in July, and things have to be changed up again. So my hope is that we see the reforms finalized, or cleaned up, if you will, in the spring, and then there's that window of opportunity. Your agent absolutely will be in touch across the state. They're going to be saying, these are new things. In fact, they're required to provide you a form saying, I'm either maintaining my unlimited policy or I'm choosing this instead.
I wondered how that was.
Yes, and you actually opt in or opt out of certain coverage levels. And that'll all be coming into place and puts us in line with many other states as far as what options are there. So that's coming, that's a major thing. The other side that we saw more recently was the budget situation, the budget breakdown, if you will, which really started to affect some essential services. There was a lot of back and forth and so on. But the key factor for me was that we as the House representatives, Republicans and Democrats, we did put forward a balanced budget. We did get it done in time. We presented to the governor. The governor had left budget negotiations a few weeks prior because we had included in that budget one-time spending for some road projects, as we had done over many other years. And she alleged that action was against an agreement not to do anything with road funding. And while we had said we weren't going to do anything long-term in the budget, I did not see it as unreasonable that we would have one-time money in there as we had done for years past, including that pot of money that was referenced tonight, actually, a few years back. So vetoes were done, as you know, transfers were done, line item vetoes, a lot of which I think were calculated to maximize pain, particularly in rural service delivery.
Seems like.
Healthcare, road patrol, issues like that. So the parties got back together again, and I was agitating, obviously, for a solution that kind of had a balance between the legislature and the governor as far as what authority was there to just transfer money from one priority to another. Because I believe that the legislature truly is empowered with appropriation. The governor can certainly veto things, but the idea of transferring money, orphaning certain programs just through that action, through an unelected board, was very troubling. So we did get a concession on that, where moving forward there will be that balance, and you can plan more effectively. And so now the conversation has turned to long-term road funding solution. I don't think there's ever really been a disagreement that there needs to be more done. I think that, to me though, and I know several other members, rather than just throwing money at things, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done with how the money is spent and making sure that the money has the maximum value. I think the local governments and the county governments had a head start on some of this versus the state, because there's been the local approval. You've had to go through the public process of getting permission to bond and do those things. And so you see a lot more accountability at the local level. And I frankly just have seen at the state level, we have some spending that happens and then suddenly a road has to be redone in a few years because there wasn't cohesive contact between MDOT and a road commission or a drain commission, for example. Things like West M21 come to mind, where it gets redone and then all of a sudden it's heaving again within 6 months. We know it's runoff, but that hasn't been properly integrated through asset management, or what type of warranties we have with certain contractors, all these other things that go into play. So those are the types of things that I would like to see as part of any road funding thing, an additional focus on the county and local spending, frankly, even versus the state, looking at prioritizing that. I do think that there's pretty good models at the state level that we could look at for how we allocate dollars. But there is a larger discussion about how we approach this. It is a favorable environment for bonding right now. for the time being at least, and that's something that's being actively discussed. And then there's some conversation about, new revenue, of course, too, outside of bonding, which could take the form of any number of things. But to me, that's the end of the conversation, not the beginning. I want to get to best practices first. We're stretching the dollars. We're doing sustainable practices with the roads that we're doing, and we're having an adult conversation about the whole thing as a state. It's definitely something that we need to get something done on. The challenge that we have, though, that's been another focus for me for a long time, is that we could have all the money in the world fall out of the sky, but if we don't have the workers to do the work, it's going to just mean we're paying 2 or 3 times as much for the same road. So the talent problem, the workforce problem is absolutely key as a part of road reforms. And so I've been working, on different initiatives for years on workforce development, on further integrating the building trades and trades in general to our education system, building up a partnership with the Blessed facility that we have right here in this township on some of the work that they're doing, and the union trades as well overall, the Building Trades Council. And we're starting to see more openness among the education institutions and otherwise toward integrating back in the applied education and the construction programs and the building trades programs so that we can actually start building that workforce. One of the major things that you'll be seeing me talking about this year is a bipartisan initiative that deals with reconnecting adult learners with their education and actually having a program in place where if someone's been disconnected from the education standpoint as an adult, as I was, I have a 14-year, 4-year degree, and I took the long way around. And it's tough to go back into it as you have a family and you're working in a career and so on. Well, so what we're looking to do is encourage those to finish degrees, but not to just have it be about 2- and 4-year degrees. This is very much focused on a 2-year in particular. But my focus as the sponsor is on technical certifications, any type of post-secondary credentialing, which takes into account the trade schools and even some of these very innovative employer-based programs that we're seeing in places like Merrill Technologies, where you're actually seeing students enroll through an employer, and they're getting 85% of their training hands-on right on a factory floor, and they're getting a 50-state recognized credential through the American Welding Society in this case. So as long as it's connected to an employer recognized credential, to me that's portability, that's sustainability. That person will always have a job.
That's going to help economic development.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, you're aware of SEVP's efforts in that direction, and the people that we've hired and stuff at that level.
Yeah, very much so. And after tonight, I'm aware of his great legs too.
Boy, there's a lot of question about that.
I'm running over the boots tonight.
More a lasting impression than anything else, So, how do I say this, John? So the governor is backing away from the 45-cent gas tax? Can I ask that? Is that a strong question?
She moved the period.
Is that a question or a statement? That's a question. Do you think she is maybe moving away from it, or do you know?
I mean, it's one person's opinion. I don't think it was ever serious. I think it was the start of negotiations.
No, I think Edmund's right. It was somebody had to throw a number out there, so
That's
she
what
threw
she
a
did.
number out there, and.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of becoming the #1 state in the country for gas taxation is not a #1 that I want for Michigan.
And wasn't it like a 7-cent gas tax like years ago? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the most they ever got.
It's still being implemented, actually.
Oh, really?
That's the thing. There's additional
really?
increases that are coming under the tax increase from 4 or 5 years ago. So you can throw any number you want, but again, there's a difference between the public representation of the issue and then when you talk to individuals that work in road construction and behind the scenes. Yes, you can get it done, but if we already have an 18-month backlog in projects in Detroit, what are we accomplishing beyond paying a lot more for the same work?
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's exactly what we saw. I mean, if hindsight was 20/20, what the road commission and MDOT and even us should have done is 5 years ago, we should have just bonded as much as we possibly could getting done road projects then, and now taking this new revenue and paying them off. I mean, that would have gotten us our best bang for our buck, because as soon as the additional revenue started, up went with the prices, which, I mean.
Asphalt tonnage went.
And if we threw 45 cents a gallon, if we threw $2 billion more at Act 51, it would just be eaten up in additional cost. I mean, you know, we went 10 years without doing, I mean, this township from 2007, last year was the first year we actually paid for asphalt. 2007 was the previous year we had done it. No asphalt. We'd done lots of seal coating, lots of gravel. We were in good shape, so we were able to do that. But I mean, you know, those companies went out of business 8 years ago, you know, and so it's got to be a slow work, you know, like you said. And,
You'll see more conversation at the state level about availability of aggregate too.
Okay.
We're running into some challenges with certain parts of the state, and
we get those from MTA because there's been opinions on local control on that.
and it's coming. I mean, it's just coming. It's a fair question on capacity and you know, access to these types of resources that really will have a profound impact on the price of these projects.
Is the Republican caucus preparing a formal road plan at all to release at some point, or?
Yeah. I mean, on a principle basis, I mean, I think a lot of the core tenets of the plan have already been out there. It's just, you know, I guess you can formalize it a bit more. But I mean, I've got a sheet of 10 or 15, you know, I think very worthy reforms that would be getting us into best practices for how the money is spent. But yeah, you'll see more of that on a more formalized basis. It's hard to describe just how difficult some of the negotiation process was when it was 45 cents or nothing.
Yeah.
Because you can present a bunch of ideas in trust in upper level negotiations, but you want to see if there's any openness. And when you're saying, okay, how about this? No. How about this? No. How about this? No. You know, you're not going to go around and say, okay, well, this is something we know it has no chance, but here it is. So that was the whole effort, was trying to find a middle way, and it just got short-circuited in the context of the budget process that we saw last fall. But I'm always optimistic on these things. I try to be an optimist. I think you'll see more, not too long from now.
Good, man. Appreciate your coming and sharing with us.
And just, one other follow-up to it. I mean, you know, my concern is as the state has the discussion, and I mean, Act 51 is going to be discussed, I'm sure, in the context of that. I've always been hesitant. I mean, we have historically, 14 years or so ago, we used to have a half-mil road millage. It had expired at a time before any of us were on the board, and it didn't get renewed. My concern is if there are things we can do locally to help subsidize our contribution to the road commission stuff for roads, but my concern is, you know, what happens if we kind of almost start solving our local road problems and yet our gas tax keeps going, and then there's the attitude of, well, the locals can solve the roads, so let's let them, and then, but our gas tax hasn't gone down and it's just going elsewhere. So now we're paying twice to have what we used to have.
That's a fair concern. I think one of the key tenets of any type of Republican plan will be local options on revenue. But it wouldn't be an and. It would be, this would be a certain portion of it. Anything that we do on revenue needs to be fairly distributed. Again, PA 51 has been kind of a third rail for a long time politically, as far as people looking at that. But I think that
it's fair.
Looking at it from a standpoint of how we are able to direct more to county and local is something I've agitated for a while. I think it's overdue. The money is simply spent more effectively, and people are spending more time on those roads. And so that's going to continue to be something that I try to emphasize in these conversations.
You had talked about education. Is there any programs where, like Michigan works with the welfare system to try to get some of these people educated so that they are, I guess they're given a time limit as to how long they can be on the welfare system, you know, and get educated within that time period so that they can get back into the workforce? Is there anything like that, you know?
Yeah, there is. Not all Michigan Works entities are created equally. Some have very good linkages and some have, you know, a lot of employer density locally. They have a higher capacity and prevailing leadership philosophy. It's always innovating and looking at those very serious populations that need that help. And others just have kind of a dogmatic, here's how we've always done things, and it's kind of a static model. So Michigan Works, to me, has a lot of work to do as far as even their branding as a state entity. And I've actually had the opportunity to sit with the head of Michigan Works for the state and say, you know, a lot of people just, you're the place that people have to check in with when they're unemployed. When somebody asks, what's the mission of Michigan Works, or what is your, so I'm hoping to have a chance to talk with more of these folks at the state level. I think they could be really doing a lot more. But it's just, there's just a kind of a confusion in the general public, I think, about what, you know, Michigan Works is. And most people have no awareness of which employers are on their local Michigan Works decision-making board. There's a lot of ambivalence, I find, in some employer circles, like, well, we don't get anybody quality from Michigan Works. Well, in the current status, you might not. It's exactly what you're saying. What if they were properly prepped? What if they were aligning with what your needs were as an employer, and that's what you're having set to do?
Definitely to get there.
So there's more linkages that need to be made. Michigan Works was in my office in the context of wanting to be kind of the conduit for getting these grants out for adult learners. I had to be frank and say I don't feel that you're necessarily in the best position to do that. Because, again, some parts of the state, yeah, absolutely. We'll have it be Michigan Works. I get that from Southwest Michigan. Some in the more densely populated areas in particular. Others will say, well, no, why would we further empower them? We don't really see any value in the programs that they're doing. So there's some work to do for Michigan Works too.
Okay? And thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
for coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. John, I know to follow what you've already seen, but you're going to have to, you're going to have to do it.
Yes.
John Plowman is our local commissioner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Basically, we passed a balanced budget. It would have been a lot better balanced with the overage or in the black more if we didn't have such high legacy costs. Our actual contribution for 2020 is basically $880,000, $900,000, but we're putting in $4.6 million. I'd like to say that our road commission over the last several years has brought their contributions up to snuff, and they're in pretty decent shape. Pleasant View is too, and actually Pleasant View is adding percent. Each individual working there is paying 4% of their MERS plan now, and it'll be 5% next year. This year, the county commissioners will be looking at the same thing for 2021. And some other things that we've done, now that we have a new treasurer, we're going to have an investment board, or I should say an investment committee, made up of our finance directors from several of our departments. The treasurer will be in charge because that is her realm, and we'll have a couple of commissioners, and to make sure that our money is invested or hopefully invested as best we can. We do not have any investment strategy at the present time, except at the road commission, and they've done an excellent job with theirs. Also, we're going to take a hard look at Blue Cross Blue Shield. I don't even mean to pick on them. I'm not. We're going to take a look at overall insurance. There's a lot of different programs that have come on the scene in the last 2 years. There's the McLaren plan, there's the Sparrow plan. There's several plans out there. We're going to take a look at them for our employees. And then, other than that, the Board of Commissioners, we have to look at more space for the veterans. The veterans have done a good job of saving their money. They have approximately $1.2 million extra in their bank account. And we're going to be looking at possibly them relocating. Now, initially, relocating like to another building or other space in the county or another building in the county. But it looks like what we may end up doing is possibly they'll have their own building. We'll build one. But that's all in the planning stage. They might find something tomorrow that works for them. And so we're taking a good look at that. I can't think of anything right offhand.
The commissioners are about the same as they were last year?
Yes, in all assignments, they gave me a little more. So as the chair just of finance, now I'm chair of economic, 2. So I'm doing a couple of things. I'm also the liaison to the road commission. That has worked out very well. I believe that the question of going to 5 is sort of, that's not a discussion point at this time. If it had been, I've said this, if it had been 5, it'd been fine. But if 3's working, and it's working pretty well, that's fine. And then also Cindy Garber goes to Pleasant View. We're supposed to call it the medical care facility now, but I still call it Pleasant View. And she's really learned, and they've been really responsive in giving us information and where they're at, and they're doing quite well financially, so that's really good. But yeah, it's same. The chairman's still Jeremy Rudd, and vice chair is Brandon Marks, and we all had the same assignments except one commissioner, and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Two quick questions, John.
Sure.
The extra money going to the legacy costs, are there transfers from other funds, or, I mean, where'd you come up with the extra $4 million, I guess, or
Well,
the extra $3 million?
Yeah, let's say 3.7 or 3.8. We intend on taking 1.2 million from our tax delinquent fund to balance our budget at the 4.6 million for our legacy costs. Actually, those figures our revenues, when I got done, they're estimated very conservatively. I'm going to say that I estimated our revenues coming in from general tax revenues, income from activities and everything, I've estimated about 15% low than actually what they'll probably come in at. So we're looking at that we may not take 1.2 million from tax delinquent fund. Also, we did not, this year for 2020, ask our employees to pay on their MERS from, some of them from 1% or whatever, up to 4 to 5 or 6%, or even up to 10 and 15% in some counties that are bordering our county. What we have to do is we'll have to do better education, maybe some changes that'll help maintain their retirement and maintain, for the years to come with some changes and so on and so forth. But there's more revenue going to come to the county. If anybody's been watched TV lately, Channel 12, they've been doing reports on the solar farm.
Yes, yes.
And that's an estimate that'll add an extra $500,000 to our general revenues. What we have to be very careful of is that we just don't spend it all, and then keep taking money from the tax delinquent fund. Really what the tax delinquent fund is for, it's kind of like your bank. Not all monies come in from tax revenues on the same day, so on and so forth. It comes in through the whole year. And so the money the treasurer holds, that makes payments out to the townships and all those millages and everything on an even keel basis. You really need about $4.5 million extra in your account for that activity, which we do. We also have a surplus in our general fund at the present time, plus the tax delinquent fund. So we have quite a fund total. And of course, our new finance director, Tracy, has done an excellent job of getting that balanced out, and income with revenue accounts. She's done quite a job.
Good.
She had a super background in auditing of governmental agencies, so
Good job.
we really like that.
The delinquent, the thing about the delinquent tax revolving fund, if the county doesn't have the funds on hand, they have to bond for it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's in the law. We get made whole regardless, however they have to figure out how to do it.
One thing the former treasurer did do, who was there for 22 and a half years, he was diligent in making that fund grow.
Okay.
And so,
Which is good.
Well, the penalties and interest go back into that, and those are pretty steep.
Yeah.
And
but we would have to assume monies that are held for, millages. I mean, let's say the veterans millages, I mean, if those accounts make money through investment, that money goes to them, okay? It goes into their pot of cash, just like the road commissioner of Pleasant View. But for the other funds that we hold, I mean, we should probably think that we can make 300,000 to 400,000, maybe 500,000 a year on what we have just in right now, and that's not in our revenue for next year either, because we don't know for sure what that'll be. So we did not add that to our revenue stream for next year, so we just upped our portion coming out of the tax delinquent fund. If we get to the end of the year, I expect maybe under $500,000 from the tax delinquent fund. And that's where it should be, or zero. When I was there 15 and 16, it was about zero. But last year, the tax delinquent fund, it was 3.8 million. I mean, it was a lot of money.
The secondary road patrol issue, that was, I assume, straightened in the budget fixes.
Yeah, I'll touch on that in a minute.
I'm just curious, did the county get made whole back to October?
Yeah, that's all come back. That's a $75,000 grant. We did that anyway. We left that in the budget.
What you did.
That's on a state, that grant comes on the state calendar year. So we still had money for January, February, March. But that's a very important grant. And even though the 75 doesn't fund all that deputy on road patrol, it funds a huge portion of it. We left it in there, and if they did not fund that, we were still gonna fund that. Because that road patrol, he's the special patrol. They put him out in areas, maybe they're having some problems. Speeding, I use speeding as a good term. Covers, shifts, all there, and we don't have enough deputies as it is. I mean, I think there's 14, for the sake of argument, I'll say there's 14, then we have an extra guy. But if we had 20 deputies, it would be a lot better. I mean, and actually our legacy cost problems, I mean, even if we didn't have road patrol, it wouldn't touch that problem very much. I mean, it's just so big. I mean, we have huge debt until 3039. I mean, this 4.6 this year is 5.2 next year, 5.6, 5.9, 6.5. It goes on and on. I've been negotiating with them I mean, we may be working towards a solution. Maybe that's a good idea. But I've been working with them at great length.
John, do you have to go to Woodhall?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to find me.
Yep,
I could rattle on all day if you need me going.
Applebee's.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, where do we go? Public comments, well, we're left with, sheriff's report.
Thank you.
All right, on the sheriff's report, last month there were 134 incidents, 54 were traffic stops.
Okay. Mark, this is
Calls are down for 2019, and this is not the final number for the year, but.
okay.
Really, the only thing to note is that we're looking at different health plans, and our health plan renews in June, so we've got a little bit of time, and it's because of cost, because it's just gotten phenomenally
What do they
expensive
have?
for the few.
What do they?
You know,
Not sure.
we got something through the Small Business Association of Michigan or something.
Okay.
But one of the suggestions made in the board meeting was, what about, if the county's going through all this negotiation process, is there any way we could tag on to theirs, you know, have our own policy, but use their buying power to help us get there? So we're looking at that too, so.
DDA, we're going to meet next Wednesday at 6:30. Justin's going to be there.
I'll be there.
And
Same outfit.
we're going to have a good meeting for your yearly renewal.
You said same outfit. Same outfit.
Well, it better be a different color. We know.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. And then zoning, I had 7 sites that had issues, enforcement activities, files available. Commissioner,
You just left.
I know, check. Mark, library?
That was their Christmas party where they have all the librarians come in and everything, so there wasn't a lot of business attended there. Big thing probably was they're trying to get the library moved in the village of New Lothrop, because the school wants them out of the building, basically. And they're working with Hazelton Township, who is challenged for money worse than we are. But Walker, is that right? Walker Trucking, who's the? Wheeler Trucking.
Wheeler, yeah.
They're actually giving them at least some moral support and possibly some financial support to do that, so they're quite community active up there, so.
Troy, the I-69 trade corridor?
Our December meeting was canceled.
Oh, that's quite easy over there.
Simple. When you meet every other month and you cancel it, then
We'll wait for next month. SCDP.
Our meeting our program at our meeting this last time was basically discussing end of year and budgetary and so forth. And we felt we've had a very successful year, and we've added some personnel because of the job training side of what we're doing now and the other things that are happening, and so that's pretty basic.
And just, you want to take over for a little bit here?
Yeah, so I'm here for the item we've added to the agenda tonight, but yeah, things are going well. Mark's doing a great job serving on the board. We had a good year, a lot of great things happening in the county. Probably one of the biggest changes, talent is the number one issue, Ben's absolutely right. But the biggest thing, we're doing a lot in that arena, but the biggest thing I've been spending more time on is housing development, which is interesting. Never really got into that, but we need places to put people. And not just subdivisions, apartment development. We have somebody for the middle school now. The Pleasant View Corona is going to be turned into housing for veterans, which I think has a lot of promise. We are talking to some single-family home developers, talking to condo developers. At a meeting this afternoon on a possible tiny home concept. Not like the super tiny homes, but like 600 or 700 square feet type thing. So it's a barrier. People want to move here. People want to live here. I think I mentioned to the board before. We've always been known as a veteran community. People living here, driving out, but few people realize 50% of our jobs here are filled by people that don't live here. They drive in every day.
Okay.
Talk to the hospital. Almost none of their doctors live here, and there's reasons for that, various reasons, but part of it is a lack of available housing. We just don't have the housing stock. So in the township, once again, we got a project here we're going to talk about tonight, which I think has a lot of promise. But we've got a few things going on. We seem to be talking quite a bit regularly. I do want to note a really interesting business, and you guys have obviously, we talked about it, you've seen some press on it. The business you have operating on Bath Road, Capstone Logistics. Fascinating company, e-commerce business, the one that's doing order fulfillment for Staples online. They've hired a lot of people for the warehouse, but what's interesting is people order online Staples. If they order by 5, that order gets in the system, and then basically overnight a truck from a centralized distribution facility comes in to Bath Road. People work overnight to fulfill those orders, to get everything sorted, and then probably what's more interesting, in the morning, drivers come and pick up those orders.
Personal cars, right?
What's that?
Personal cars.
Personal, that's the difference. So it's not like a FedEx or UPS or the mail. People bring their own vehicles and pick up the packages and deliver them. And I think in this world of online ordering and e-commerce and all that, and a lack of drivers, I think you're going to see more and more people using their own vehicles to deliver packages. And so they're 1099, they're not direct employees, so they got to cover their own fuel and gas and all that. But I talked to the guy 2 weeks ago. Their drivers are taking home $1,000 to $1,200 a week. Yeah, and they can make more or less depending on how many packages they want to deliver.
Really?
So, and their warehouse people are making good money too. Once again, it's based on
What do they wear, badges?
how many.
I mean, when they approach?
That I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But, they've got, warehouse people that are making 16, 18 bucks an hour.
They bring stuff to Kelly, here at the township.
We got
Do
it
they?
delivered today.
Today.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're usually first off the truck.
Where's that?
Yeah,
Oh,
right down the road,
fine.
there it comes.
I think why it's so interesting is
Okay.
we're gonna see more of that. E-commerce, more warehouses, and I think particularly Shiawassee County, Perry area, has potential because of our central location. So these guys, they got a place in Grand Rapids that delivers, they got a place in Detroit. We're right in the middle of the state, and that's really their geographic coverage area, because if you think about it, is people want their stuff like within 2 seconds of ordering it, right? They don't want to wait 4 days anymore.
Right.
These companies have to have more smaller distribution centers all over America to satiate the customer demand. So I think you're going to see more opportunities for us in that arena. And we've actually, we could become a future home for an Amazon or
Could be,
something like
could be.
that. So I think this is the first of potentially many, and
don't
it's a good
count-
fit.
Don't count Kentucky Fried Chicken out. So
Why?
I'm hearing that more and more now next to Taco Bell, and also Biggie Coffee coming, so.
You screwed me on that one,
I
Mark,
heard
right?
that again yesterday, so.
I think they're gonna be quite a competition for UPS and FedEx. The way I had ordered, election printing supplies, they charged me $168 for shipping.
Ooh,
Who did?
from FedEx
No, from UPS.
or UPS?
Wow.
Well,
Well-
the Kentucky Fried Chicken's a reality.
I know, I'm hearing that.
But here's the
It's
thing.
a market, it's whatever you want.
Guys, yeah.
With the cost of vehicles,
In between.
with the cost of fuel, with the cost of, wages and all that, I mean, they have a much higher overhead at a place like UPS. This is a very low overhead operation.
I actually
The questions-
contacted a company out of Lansing to see if they would go down and pick it up for me and bring it to me, and it was cheap.
The question's gonna be with that whole model is, at what point, it's kind of gonna be like the Uber question. Uber is first the taxi industry. At
Yeah.
what point, does the regulation, come into play and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Are those capstone drivers, are they, do they have to have DOT numbers, do they, all of that type of stuff. And that will eventually come up to question.
Oh, yeah.
We either will have to have less regulation on FedEx and UPS or more on them.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure that's gonna be coming.
My last-
Either the state level or federal level.
My last question, of course,
Yes.
on this whole growth progress is,
Yeah.
is of course, the TIM project.
Oh, still working on financing. It's all about the money. Yeah. The number one question I get,
I didn't want you to leave without me.
No,
asking
it's all, yeah, totally understand.
Once the $3 billion loan's closed, it's good to go, right?
That's,
All right, and.
you got any pull in Washington? Yeah, please,
Yeah, mark the planning commission.
No meeting.
No meeting, okay, we gotta pay these bills, Troy. Financial
Oh,
report,
right, you've got
pay
your
the
bills listed in front of you. We want an extra week between board meetings, so you'll see some duplicate bills, like some power bills and such at the beginning. Tax revenue has started coming in. We also got our 5th revenue sharing check of the fiscal year in, which was very solid, $55,000, it's the highest one we've done since I've done this. So, that will, barring a massive crash in the March 1st one, that'll be well above what we budgeted, so that's good.
Okay,
Are there any questions on the bills?
No, pay the bills.
Mark says pay the bills, seconded by Butch. Roll call vote, Kelly.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Chris Scrivens? Yes, Trey Parmalee?
Yes.
Yes. Correspondence. Well, the only thing I put in your box was the bulletin on the terrorism alert from the Homeland Security from the Sheriff's Office. And I put that on just for informational purposes only. Kelly, did you have any?
I had a notice from the Village of Morris regarding their Downtown Development Authority, the semi-annual information meeting. Will be January, let's see, January 22nd at 5:45.
Okay. Okay. Troy?
Nope.
Public comment, unfinished business. Perry Township Administration Policy and Procedures draft from last week. I'm okay with it. That was the numerical error.
So the only thing the major thing I had, Kelly, when I went through it was, do we want to tweak any of our numbers in regards to bidding or solicit that? I assume you had that marked in it too, didn't you? I mean, what are okay. As it sits right now, I don't know, that's what I'm trying to find. We solicit sealed bids for anything over 10,000.
Yeah.
And then we, attempt to get, there we go. 10,000, and then we have the threshold between like 250 and 10,000 is, we try to obtain at least 3 quotes. What
Are you suggesting to change?
I don't know. I guess we do have the clause in there that the between 500 and the 10,000 can sometimes be the tricky area. Now, we do have the language in there that it says if possible. Because sometimes,
Well,
there are,
Pat, lately, it's been very difficult to get 3 bids. And not
Correct.
just here, we bought the tanker,
It's
we
very,
couldn't get 3 bids. We bought the
the
pumper, we couldn't get 3 bids.
specialized items are very hard to,
Yes,
Yeah.
so I don't, I wouldn't wanna make it any more certain than it is.
yeah.
And I don't
and
think,
I wasn't proposing to do it.
and I don't think 10,000 is a bad number anyway to really require bids.
Correct.
That takes us over the realm of most things that could be considered emergency maintenance or anything like that.
Well, and there's clauses in there to cover
Right.
that situation too, so. Other than that, I didn't have anything. I think your changes in red and everything were fine, Kelly. You added the credit card policy and the fraud policy at the end of it, which makes it, more.
And then once we get this in place, we'll do the handbook, we'll update the handbook. How about the Public Works Administrative Policy and Procedures, number 7? That was legal. Capital Improvement Plan.
Is that the one you want to take out?
I just questioned whether we needed it.
I can't see if you do.
Yeah, that's fine. Those projects would be handled on an individual basis anyway, right?
We'll just take care of it. That way if you don't think.
So remove it, remove section 7.
Yeah, 7.1, 7.2.
7.2.
7.1 and 7.2.
I mean, we can always, if everything totally changes where you have to have that, we can take it back and put it back.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, anything is subject to the board changing its mind anyway.
But at this point, having that in there in the future could create problems if the circumstances don't change surrounding it.
So do I hear a motion to approve the Perry Township Administrative Policy and Procedures?
The amendments.
Amendment. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Mark says yes, seconded,
No.
Butch, second. All in favor?
I need a roll call. Is that policy?
Yeah, well, do a roll call. I guess.
Okay, roll call vote.
Francis Griffin,
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes, Tricia Healy,
Yes.
Mark Foltz,
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Here, it's not a big deal. When we have to do that, the I-69 meeting, it literally adds 2 or 3 minutes to the meeting.
You go now. Okay, road commission done, road discussion done, right?
Oh, no, we were gonna talk about Bennett Drive.
The very end, at the very end. That's
Do we need to worry about
No.
that until we're closer to budget?
No, here's what I was gonna talk about. Remember the Bennett? So,
Oh, yeah, road discussion. Yes, go ahead. Yes,
so here's the question on, if we look at that Bennett Drive project,
for this year, this coming up year. 84,000.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
so okay, let me back up. In a normal situation for any, what I would consider a subdivision type road, we have always assessed. Clifford Fields, Raylan Hills, and Forest Green, every time there's been work done, they have been specially assessed to it. Rose Boulevard will also fit in that category. We've never had to do any work on that, because that was done by the developer.
But it's
and
not
Turner.
through a road.
But it's not through road. The touchy part is Bennett Drive is a through road.
Yes.
My thought was then let me back up one other step. When the DD, I will go through the records to verify that, but when it was seal coated there in, what did we conclude, 2002? The DDA contributed on that. The exact percentage I'll have to look up. Do we ask the DDA to go in on us on that? Since, I mean, that is all, you know,
Well, then I have a question prior to that question.
sure.
Where are they in the amount of money they have if we have to pull the trigger on the water project to what they've committed to on
Well, they haven't really, I mean, we haven't,
200,000.
that? Well, the DDA did commit a certain amount of money to the water project.
I don't know that we ever put a specific dollar amount on it.
Not specifically.
Because we don't have a clue what's gonna cost.
Right.
You know, what is their balance? What is it?
200,000.
200,000 and, you know, all things are current. We paid for the lights and everything else. They have a $25,000 to $30,000 a year income, you know, of which they've gotten all of it from this year, but I mean, a big chunk of that starts again July 1st, so.
I think that it would be, because of the situation with that road, it wouldn't be a bad thing for the DDA to consider contributing.
I mean, I wasn't proposing, I mean, what they did is in lieu of it before, in lieu of a subdivision assessment, the DDA kicked in money.
Yeah.
And Bennett Drive is unique because it's a through road
Yes,
too.
yes.
And it's certainly, you can't put that burden all on those because it's a through road. Rose Boulevard would be different on that.
Right.
Do we want to have that discussion in your DDA meeting
We
next
will,
week?
we will.
I personally think,
We
I
figured
was
it's
stunned
so-
with the cost.
It may
to
be
be
not
honest.
to assess-
less than that, it may
To
be
not
less
to
than
assess any
80,000.
owners, right?
Right. I think we would have a hard time, because it's a through road, but ask the DDA to contribute towards it, if we decide to do that. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna do every project on this list.
From their budgeted amount, from their budget, just from their
Yeah,
budget,
yeah.
yeah.
They don't get money from anywhere
What was
else.
the, well, I meant roughly about half. of it.
84,000.
Yeah, which was steep.
Yeah.
We thought-
But it's getting in rough shape.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you know, I mean, that's one of our industrial areas. I mean, you don't want that to look like,
You
Well, you're
know,
gonna,
we just put up all the lights.
based on what
It'd be nice
Justin's
to
here
bring-
about, you
bring
could
that.
possibly be adding a whole bunch of traffic to that road.
right, that thought comes to my mind.
Heavier
too.
traffic, yeah.
So,
Well, just in blade traffic alone, it's gonna add a bunch.
but it's gonna be something
Yeah.
that, if that's what happens, they're gonna have to decide that. They're gonna have to decide that. I mean, we can't just say, well, maybe we'll think about it. I mean, you know,
Right.
because they meet quarterly, I mean, we gotta set that in the budget.
Good
Maybe we
thing.
could have the owners contribute a portion too.
No, the DDA, that would be the job of the DDA and the DDA district.
It's their district and they.
Well, because that revenue is captured to spend in the DDA
That's,
district.
that's right.
And that's what the DDA is
And, you
designed
know, the
for.
members are there and some of them work.
Again,
work there,
because,
so-
because that is a through road, you know, that makes that trickier, so.
Yep, agreed.
All right,
Go ahead.
So discussion with the DDA then.
Yes.
okay, we'll bring it up Wednesday. Water property proposal.
Okay, so we talked about our property south of town, you know, we talked about this 2-3 months ago. I wanted to, when we send this out, you know, we authorized to send out proposals to the property owners. I wanted to put this all together so everybody was looking at the same page, and I apologize, I didn't put this in your box because I sent this to Tom to have him review, and he still hasn't gotten back with me. So I'm not gonna send this out till I hear from him. Did anybody see anything in there that they question or doesn't seem right or anything? It's basically the discussion we had 2 months ago, put into a form for people to submit. And what I wanted to be clear on this is, these are simply proposals. We can decide to do nothing. You know, we can just say, no, we don't like any of them, move on. I just want this to be as fair as possible, you know, I mean, because there's, you know, there are some, I explained the zoning issues in there and everything else. I mean, there's some real restrictions what could be done.
Well,
And-
we certainly have one of the better opportunities to recover our investment at least
Correct.
there.
We recover that in what in our discussion among the board has been that we would take any proceeds from selling that and put it in a fund earmark for the utilities extensions down Lansing Road, which would be a far better.
Use,
I mean, the board, I guess, was thinking 70 years down the road and ignoring 0 to 20 years down the road, you know.
So the way it's laid out, we're not giving an option to only buy certain pieces, right?
You're gonna
Yes,
buy all or
the whole
nothing, I
thing.
would
We're
hope.
gonna buy all or nothing with the exception that if the back piece, the easement going in the front could be sold to the landowner that owns either
That's
side of
fine,
the
yeah.
easement.
But as far as the.
But nobody can buy that separately, no.
Right, the major chunk of property needs to be all or nothing.
Right, yeah.
I
No,
guess
no,
if
we're
they're gonna
not.
buy 40 acres, they might as well buy 4.295.
Well,
If they
in
need
my in this person, I would prefer that easement went away.
Yes.
You know, and was bought by one of the side owners. I mean,
Because the
that-
ones we're proposing to send it to are all the bordering property owners, correct?
Yeah, because it doesn't mean, you can't do anything, it doesn't need zoning any other way.
It's attached to somebody's property. Yeah, not ours.
And did it?
And they have
I
all
may have missed
expressed
it,
it.
but it didn't say in there that they have to honor the lease that's currently in place. Yeah.
And all of the adjacent property owners have expressed interest, so.
Okay.
We will get proposals there, I mean, they're not bids, they're proposals, and we evaluate and we decide what we wanna do. If we don't like any of them, we don't do anything.
Sounds fine to me.
But I want Tom to review it first,
Yes.
so.
Okay.
It's,
All right,
Well,
attorney contract.
he didn't contact me, so we're gonna have to table that.
Oh,
The attorney appears to be on vacation, so.
well, you know, I called him for I had a resident ask me for where I could get a hold of 2 Trump 2020 ads. So because of the question, I had to refer that to Tom. But Kelly helped me,
I did?
I think. Let's see, who was it?
Do you have them in your car or what?
No, I told the person to call Tom Thomas.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yes, you told me that. So we got that resolved with one phone call from Mike. Kelly took care of it.
That'll be the headlines out of it.
Anyway, it's a January, it's 2020, so I brought that up. Okay. Attorney contract. The last agenda item is, let's talk about the industrial park. And you want to give us just a brief history? Real quick?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. So, we won't go too much detail. We have a company, actually, they are now located in Perry Township.
Yes.
They're in the building on Bath Road. They're a joint tenant. They're in the front part of the building. Capstone is in the back part of the building. A business called Professional Metal Works. Nice company, nice guys, owned by 2 gentlemen. And they are a metal fabrication business. Their primary facility, you may be aware of, they're actually not too far down the road on the Lansing Road in basically the Hazlet area. Yeah, so they're, you get off the East Lansing exit, you know, right there, you come up to the light, there's the Speedway gas station. Normally you head into town, but if you backtrack a little bit to the east, they're right there. So, you know, from here, they're whatever, 10 miles down the road on Lansing. So, business is doing great, need more space. Had originally identified the Bath Road property as a potential site for significant operations, but without going into all the details, we're not able to make it work. Because they would have needed a sewer connection there, and that was not going to be feasible. And so they obviously have taken some of the space, but have not done it all. Why the sewer connection is relevant is they are seeking to do some powder coating, which by all accounts, and you'll see this in the letter you have in front of you, is very innocuous. So. Long story short, we thought that the bigger project where they would be able to do more manufacturing, more industrial, was off the table, but they have reemerged and have signified interest in the Spartan Fence property on Bennett Drive. So as many people know, we've been here before for Spartan Fence. They had their building there a long time, built a new building on there, which you supported as a board. They're doing well, but they had put it on the market. They're not going anywhere, by the way. They're very happy, but they could go elsewhere, potentially, in the township. So they got listed, and they re-engaged and have expressed interest in being there. The concern, coming full circle, was wanting the ability to tap into the sewer system so they could do powder coating. I don't know exactly, how big a building. I do believe they would need to add on to the facility fairly significantly. I know it's a limited parcel, so as far as any building expansion, I don't know layouts and things like that, if they would need to get variances. That's a whole other issue. They basically told us, in order for us to move ahead, we need clearance, we need the okay, the blessing, to be able to tap in to, in this case, the Morris system. So we were not able to do it on the Perry system. That's why they're coming back, is it's not the Perry system, it's the Morris system. So it's been a process, and Mark, credit to you, you've really taken a leadership role in trying to move that forward. It's been a process trying to get things going in terms of testing, and you can elaborate on that. But basically, this is a business I think we'd love to have. It's a larger industrial business, would bring a lot of jobs. In fact, I think if they were to completely relocate to the township, they probably would become the second largest employer in the area behind the schools. I don't think there are 100 people, but there's certainly probably somewhere like 60, 70, 80
A lot of cars.
A lot of cars.
A lot of cars.
So it'd be huge for our communities, for spending at the restaurants and everything else. Good paying, manufacturing, middle class job.
And it's in the LDFA area to contribute to the water system.
Exactly. So if any building addition, tax revenue would go to the LDFA. But once again, their key, they need a blessing, so to speak, that they can tap into that system and use the sewer system for their effluent. So with that, Mark, you might want to elaborate on what the...
Just so the board knows, Steve Hughes is the, he and his wife are at Hughes Environmental Services. They do all the monitoring for the state for, used to be the DEQ, now it's the Michigan Department of Environmental Great Lakes Energy, Eagle. And they are the ones that do the monthly tests and submit it to the state. And Steve is very intimate with that lagoon system. He wanted to install a new meter, new 2-inch flow meter. The problem is there's no cutoff valve, so they can't get it installed until they get a hot tap cutoff valve, then he can put the meter in. So that's going to be 2 or 3 more months down the road. But he got with his wife, Kristen, got with the actually the industrial pretreatment program state coordinator, whose name is Randy Conroy, C-O-N-R-O-Y, and he basically said that if they don't seem to fall under any category that would be considered any harmful category. And basically, Steve said it's a clear bill of health. And he's the one that has to do the monitoring, and he didn't see anything from the data that was presented to them. I give them the blessing of, after talking to Troy, he gave me the, if the lagoon, if they get in 2 years, they put a lot of product down the sewer, and the lagoon needs to be expanded, there's ways to address that. And we have it in writing with the village and more, so we don't have an issue there. So I made an informational email on the 17th of December to all the parties that we give them a green light to proceed with the purchase as far as the fence. He wants something a little from the board that, to whom it may concern, basically a letter of information concerning industrial DDA property located at 10838 Bennett Drive. And I just said that over the past several months, PMW, Professional Metalworks, has looked into the possibility of purchasing the property to expand the company located at Old Lansing Road there in 78. Working with the Village of Morris and Steve Hughes from Hughes Environmental, we've made contact with the state of Michigan, Eagle, the state coordinator of the IPP program, which is the discharge that he has to turn in every month from the lagoon. They have concluded the discharge does not fall under any category that would be suspect or any concern by Eagle for the Morris Lagoon system, which is what we needed. That was the information that we needed from them. Therefore, with the Perry Township Board approval on January 8, 2020, the Township does agree the findings would not stand in the way of a purchase agreement for the property at 10838 Bennett Drive. We, of course, do not have any authority over any county zoning rules or Eagle or IPP rules that we're not aware of or deemed pertinent to the PWM processes that may or may not be used now or in the future. And I will submit that to them.
Does that sound reasonable?
Does that sound?
I mean, we can't basically say, well, the DEQ is not gonna give you any trouble, I mean, we don't have the authority to say it.
They're not, so, I think it's a very good letter. The only, when you're talking, the only comment I might have, is they, they have been waiting for, the meter, the flow meter. So I think, they're gonna appreciate this letter, should the board approve it. I wanna make sure though that we have a clear answer, because I think what they wanna avoid is, well, what if when they do this 3 months down the road, and even though we think it's good, right, if the flow meter is whatever, then they don't want Morris coming back on them and saying, oh, no, we're cutting you off.
Morris has no, I mean, the Village of Morris, Steve is contracted through the Village of Morris to do the process, the engineering work. And so if he's comfortable with it, there really is nothing that the village is going to do.
Well, I mean, here's the overall logistics, I mean, the sewer from the Morris Lagoons down through our industrial park is our sewer. It is the Perry Township extension of the Morris Sanitary Drainage District, to which we own, we control, everything about it is our property. We then have a contract with the Village of Morris that treats our, sewage that goes into the lagoon. And there's, we have a contract with them for treating it, and it's a 8-page contract that spells out a formula of how it's divided up and everything else. I mean, we have a service area that our sewer line serves, and we can do, if we desire to expand our sewer line within that service area, we are good to do that.
And our flow is very low, very low.
The question that seemed to need to be answered was there a problem with their type of discharge going into this type of treatment facility? Because where they're at now is in a standard wastewater treatment plant like Owasso and Corona have, and lagoons are different. And that's for the DEQ to, answer there, and it appears they have. I don't know what else we can say.
Yeah,
I can't say in a letter, the Village of Morris says everything, because the Village of Morris.
No, but you made a good point though, and maybe this is a slight tweak. Maybe we have a legal agreement to allow people in our district to tap in to the sewer system.
Well, it's already tapped in. They're not doing anything new.
Right.
There's already taps in.
I think, my read is, I think they want, I don't want to say they want more of a legal verbiage, if you will, but.
He just yesterday, did you talk to him?
No, I did not.
This was yesterday.
Okay.
It was the realtor.
Yeah,
It was Leo.
Yep, Leo, yep.
And they were looking at a Friday signing.
Yep.
They want to get this thing finalized Friday. And I said we were meeting tonight, and I could put something in writing, and we can make a letter that the board will go along with if they approve it, and then I would give it to them tomorrow.
Okay.
Email it to them tomorrow. And that was what the discussion was, and he said they would be fine with that. He would be fine with that, so.
Okay.
That was.
I can't sit there and say that you're not gonna ever have a problem with a state agency or anybody else. We don't have that authority.
Things change.
Yeah, well, no, and I think, that's the answer, yeah. No, and I think it's a very good letter. I just know, that capacity issue.
The capacity issue is totally spelled out in our agreement with the village. They cannot stop us from doing anything under a capacity thing. If it's determined the capacity has to be increased, it's spelled out in the agreement, how it's handled. It's divided between us and
I did a
them.
physical inspection of that wet well. There is no flow. The pumps hardly run. There is hardly any flow going to the lagoon. You see what I'm saying? So
Oh, yeah.
even if he triples the flow, there's not going to be any flow going to that lagoon.
Yeah.
What if we add in there, Mark, under, let's see here.
Are they moving from Lansing Road out?
So that would be the purpose. My understanding is, should they be allowed to do this, that they would bring more operations out here. So this would basically allow them to relocate instead of just expand out here. I don't know what that means for Bath Road, if they would move out of Bath Road as well into a new facility. As you said, I think, Riley, as far as zoning, that's a whole nother issue. because if they need to build,
Well, they
you know.
talked about buying across the street and putting an office up. remember?
Yep, because, you know, as we know, that is a fairly small parcel.
Yes.
Well, it's two parcels put together is how they even got what they did there.
Exactly, that's a 20 and a 5, a 20,000 and a 5,000, so,
Now, could they combine them and hook one building home?
Right.
Absolutely, but I mean, they're not gonna be able to cover every square inch of the lot, obviously they're gonna have to parking and
Right.
everything else. And maybe that's what maybe they buy the lot straight for a parking lot. Who knows?
yeah. And I think, you know, as I mentioned, once again, Mark, you've done yeoman's work on this, and I think it helps a lot because of your history and working in this arena. I don't know anything about wastewater, you've worked in it for a long time. They said, we're not doing anything until we resolve this sewer issue. And we just want to make it feel nice and warm and fuzzy, like you did the work, and you know, and that's why I think, yeah, I think the letter is good. So they just can say, okay, we're good, we feel good about it, we got what we needed from the township, we're gonna make an offer by the building. So,
I mean, I'm just trying to think in there where we could say something about, you know, we have a sewage treatment agreement with the village of Morris.
Here, we have an agreement concerning treatment of sanitary sewage.
But you don't have that in this
I
letter.
don't, I can add that, yeah.
it's more of a leak, I think they just want that, you know what I mean?
Just put at the end of that paragraph,
Township.
we have an agreement with the village of Morris with the treatment of sanitary sewage.
Yeah, there is a tap, you know, there is a tap at the site.
It's already been tapped, they've already
It's already
done
been
that.
tapped. We have an agreement, you can use it, basically.
That's what, that's
They're
what.
probably shells like
Sanitary sewage.
Without going into too much detail, Kelly, yes, they would like to be here. I will tell you, they've been very pleased with Mark. They've said that to me multiple times, how Mark has been good to work with and very supportive. And that's been very helpful. But it's been an interesting process for this. So, have you not done the work you have been doing, I don't think they would still be here looking at this right now.
But they almost got turned off in November, remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there was the
We've been
drama over this
trying, well,
year, I mean,
you know, it's a balance, right? You know, and we, you know, with Mark, we've had this conversation many times, you know, there is a balance because there does need to be, you know, you gotta check the system and there has to be, you know, business just can't just do whatever they want.
And what I think, we'll send this letter and we will make a copy of our agreement to attach to it.
Perfect.
Such that if any of their legal counsel
There
wants
you
to
go.
throw in their opinions,
Perfect.
they can.
Perfect, that's what it took me a long time to say.
Okay, we'll
That's
just
I will make
CC at the bottom. We'll just put, agreement.
Attachment, you know.
Perfect.
Agreement in Prairie Township and Village.
This would be a game changer, though.
All
I mean,
right.
this would be the largest industry operation we've ever had here in the Perry area, so.
Motion to approve authorizing Mark to send the letter to the Professional Metalworks.
Second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I said aye.
Oh, okay. That's my good ear.
More public comment?
With that, any more? I guess not. I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This letter-
Second.